Steve here for Flies and Pies again. We're going to put together an Icewing Baitfish. This is a fly I actually found on YouTube once. I have never been able to find it again, and I've looked. So I figured I'd go ahead and put it back up because I like it. It's a real effective bass pattern. I've got a guy going on Monday that's going to take a couple of these with him to try and fish for some pike in Canada, so we'll see how it is for a pike pattern. I can't imagine it'd be a bad one, but it's pretty simple. What I've got here is a 1/0 octopus hook. Real simple little hook. I've got monofilament thread. This is 0.006. I'll take my thread and I'll start it a little bit behind the eye, about an eye's length behind the eye of the hook. I'm going to lay a bed that runs back about half to 2/3 of the way back the hook. I lay it back up on top of the bed just so slightly, and then what I've got here is some unique hair. I take the unique hair, lay it in, lash it down on the top side of the hook shank. Okay? Bring my thread forward, kind of get it all lashed down good and tight. The reason why we use monofilament thread on this is because monofilament thread will grab the synthetic fibers and hold them better than a nylon thread or anything to that effect. But what I'll do is I'll actually cut this off about 2 hook shank lengths back. Take some super glue. This is the super cheap super glue at the Walmart. Take a little bit of this super glue, and what I do is I just brush it into the unique hair and kind of let it soak in and go back. What this does is this creates a foul guard. The ice wing and stuff like that will want to actually wrap around the hook bend itself and foul your hook so that you won't be able to actually hook a fish. So you put this on and it'll wrap around that as opposed to the hook shank, and it won't foul your hook. Keeps the body going the right direction, keeps everything nice and stiff. Now, because this is actually still wet and it'll take it a few seconds to dry, and we're trying to do this quickly, I'm going to go ahead and cut this off, put it down, and grab this one. As you can see, that stuff gets real stiff once you put that on there, put that super glue on there. So I'll grab this one that I've already got ready to go and just throw my thread back on and bring it back here to where I'm going to start tying my fly. Ice wing, I'm going to use this for the bottom portion of the body. This is the Polar Wind, which is a really cool color. It's got a lot of iridescence to it. And then blue smolt. I think it's pearl smolt, light blue pearl smolt, something to that effect. And then I'll put a stripe down the back with just some flat, plain old black ice wing. So I'll grab myself a little piece of the Polar Wind here. You don't need much. This stuff will build up really nice, pretty bulk. I put it around my thread, like so. Lay it in, lash it down, split it around the hook point, and pull it back. It's very similar to an EP style tie, only not quite as intense or involved. I'll grab some of the pearl smolt, do the exact same thing, only I want this to be the top portion, so I'm going to lay it on top. Got this the Polar Wind all tangled up on the hook point there. Just kind of got to brush it back and keep playing with it. It'll go where it wants to go here in a minute. There we go. Get that stuff out of there. Move in front of it. Go back to the Polar Wind. Get it all going the right direction. Wrap it around the thread, up against the hook shank. Couple 3 turns, split it, go around the hook point, fan it all out. You gotta be careful doing this in the living room, gentlemen, because if you do, the wife's gonna yell at you because there's flashy stuff all over the carpet. Go back to the pearl smolt on top of the hook shank again. This one's a little offset. It's a little bit to the side. That's so I can kind of cover up that stuff that I just put on the side of the, all the thread and everything, give it a better profile and a cleaner look. A little more of the polar wind. Split it open around the hook shank. Pearl smolt. Oops, didn't quite get enough there. Pull a little more out. There we go. Around the thread. And this one I'm going to put slightly on the side facing me. Lash it down. Polar wind. Bottom side. Lash it down. As you can see, some of this stuff is trying to go forward. I'm not too worried about that. We can trim that out of the way when it comes down to it, because we'll end up trimming the whole fly here in a moment anyway. Lash that down. And then this is going to be the last piece that I put on the top side, so I'm going to make it a little bit heavier than the rest. Try and get this all cleaned out here. There we go. I want this to spread out nice and pretty and clean. Kind of get every side of the hook. Just kind of wiggle it with your thumb. Check both sides. Yeah, that side facing you guys looked kind of bad there. It's okay. Tease it around a little. That looks a lot better. There we go. And then actually wrap over it. Kind of got to cover it, lash it down. Then what I'll do is I'll take a little tiny little bit, just a pinch of some strands out of this black. That's too much. That's about right. There. Wrap that around the thread. Now this will go directly on top. Lay it flat over the back and lash it down on top of what you just tied on the blue part. Then build a head, an actual head of thread, a pretty decent sized one. See, now we've got that nice pretty stripe down the back. Okay. Then I'll actually just take my whip finisher, because I'm done tying now that my whip finisher's shiny with Icewing. Whip it off, cinch it down, and clip my thread. At this point, I'm going to kind of pull this black up and out of the way. I'm just going to kind of start to thin backwards on the bottom. Do the same on the top, just thin towards the back. Brush it back, see how it looks. I like to run the blade of the scissors through the Icewing, because sometimes you'll have fibers that are doubled over a little bit. So I kind of try and get them all cut apart, and it does actually thin it a little bit. As you can see, I just pulled a nice little fuzzy ball out of there. And then kind of just trim off the black so that it's not way longer than the rest of the body. And there you have it. A nice, whoops, that's a little excessive there. Uneven that nicely. There we go. There's a really nice little baitfish profile. Let me scoot that over, get it all in the frame there. Really nice little baitfish profile. Very shiny, very flashy, very eye-catching. Throw some eyes on either side and put a drop of epoxy over the top of this monofilament thread. The cool part about monofilament thread is when you throw that drop of epoxy on top of the monofilament thread becomes invisible. You won't see it. So it'll actually lock all that stuff down, and it makes it look really nice. And if you fluff it up a little bit like this, give you a little broader profile, a little bigger profile, and you put your eyes on there and then epoxy back a little ways, it'll actually hold that profile shape a little bit better. There's several tricks you can do. Typically what I do is just a drop of super glue, a little drop of super glue, then I put my eyes on with a little drop of super glue on either side. So there you go, Icewing Baitfish. Real simple, real quick, very, very impressive when you look at it. I hope you like that one, guys.